Hey everybody, it's Jen. Coming to you live. I'm sorry I didn't come in yesterday, but we ended up having a little bit of a rainy afternoon and I just didn't feel it. So it's funny that this week has been about that. And when I was tuning in this morning, I'm like, okay, I promised everybody some kind of a reading in the group today, so I'm going to get into that and do that today. And my guides gave me some really good stuff about that. They said, first of all, it was actually really a good lesson for everybody to see that you shouldn't, like, I talk a lot about authenticity, right? So part of why I didn't come on this week and why I told you guys, look, it's not coming through. I'm not going to give a half-assed reading or whatever, and I'm not going to do anything that doesn't feel authentically true, and that I won't bring a message through unless I have certainty and clarity that that's what's coming through. There's a lot of lessons in this, and it all ties into Tuesday and not doing the reading, and then all of the questions that came in on Wednesday when I posted that live. So it's always, there's self-care, which is part of it, right? We've got to start doing self-care. I have a whole bunch of notes, you guys, so I kind of have the camera a little bit wonky because I have my Bible is out and I have notes from the questions that were asked the other day on the live that I did there. So part of me not coming in and doing the reading this week, and part of me not coming to you until today, which is Saturday, and I think I said I'll try Thursday, Friday, it just wasn't feeling right. And so we're being asked by the divine to really step into truth and authenticity, okay? And that means there's so many messages coming in. We've got to start using discernment as well on where we're getting our information and who we're trusting to give the information. And it's been brought to my attention lately, like somebody actually asked me the other day and said, well, somebody was giving me like an energy reading, but I wasn't really sure if it felt right, but I just did it anyway. And I'm like, you've got to use discernment. So all of that kind of wrapped up into why I didn't give the reading, but it's also like my guides this morning were like, it was a good lesson for everybody to see that you've got to be in clarity and discernment, and don't just give a message. Like for me, I would never just give a half-assed, like, well, this is what it might be. Like literally, if I'm going to say that I'm getting divine guidance, it's going to be divine guidance, or else I'm not going to give it. So again, it's the whole discernment thing, and we'll get into more a little bit about that. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of the bullet points of the questions that came up the other day, because obviously, again, I didn't do cards on Tuesday. You guys, if you've seen the other video, you know why. And now I'm going to go through and ask the questions or answer some of the questions that came up. So on Tuesday, the reason that I couldn't do it is there's so much erratic energy right now. And you guys literally, like when I tune into the collective energy, it's like literally like just little energy just flying everywhere. So that was part of the reason that I couldn't really tune in to give a good collective message. Somebody just said, you're not a half-assed kind of woman. I don't think I've ever really been. It's either do it right or just don't do it, you know? So it's kind of funny because I know Tammy's known me for a really long time, so she would know. Anyway, so all the erratic energy that's out there, we have to remember that we are empathic, okay? Now, you may not even know what that is, but if you're in my group, then there's something within you. You have that divine gift of being empathic. What that means is that you feel energy on a way, you feel emotions on a way. Emotions are energy, thoughts are energy, all of that, everything is energy. We're energy. So you feel that on an amplified level. Now, I know out there in the regular world, they call it like highly sensitive. There's all these different terms that are going out there, but let's just get to the basics of it. You're empathic. That means that it's way different than empathy. Like it's one thing to have empathy for others. It's a different to be empathic, because it's like you feel it. And even if they're telling you one thing, you feel that that's not what the energy that they're giving off doesn't match their words. So you're feeling things in a totally different level. Now you think about everything that's happening out there right now in the world. And if you're out in it, right? If you're out in that energy, and even if you're not, there's still just sporadic energy and erratic. Like that's the word that I'm feeling, is there's erratic energy because of all of the different emotions and all of the different, oh my God, blaming people. Everybody's blaming everybody for everything, right? And so it's funny to me because, well, not funny, haha, but just like, okay, my guides told us at the beginning of the year that one of the things that we had to be really paying attention to is radical responsibility. So we've got to be responsible for our own energy, okay? That means our own emotions, our own fears, our own angers, all of that stuff. Any kind of emotion on any part of the spectrum, including joy, okay? So we're responsible for that. So I'm going to go now to the list and just kind of go down like as I was looking through the comments, I just kind of went one by one, and some of them tie in together. So you'll see where I've tied them in together. But it's really interesting because on Tuesday, somebody said, is something going to happen soon? And there was a couple different people that asked it in slightly different ways. And the only thing that I could say is that, and so is something going to happen soon, and when will we be on the other side of this? So if I take a couple of the comments and put them together, that's basically what the question was. And it's really interesting. My guides have a funny sense of humor, because I had said the other day that I felt like, I don't feel like COVID is it. I feel like there's still something to come. But I also feel like in the last week there was some kind of a shift in, like I heard the sentence that said, the Great Awakening has commenced. And that's a word that I don't use. So you guys know, whenever I get these words that are like really, because I'm kind of the, country kid, and I just talk plain. That's just how I am. So it's not that I don't understand them or that I don't have vocabulary. I do, but it's just not my personality. So whenever I get those kind of words, I know it's coming from my guides, because I'm like, okay, I would have just said, okay, it's starting, instead of saying it has commenced. Like literally, that's what I heard. But this morning, what was so funny is, as I was asking my guides, I said, is there, what else is coming? And they're like, just be prepared for more big things coming. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how many, but I just know that COVID was not it. Okay. And the riots were just a distraction, like plain and simple. That's what I feel like. But what's interesting is this morning, my guides, like I said, they're a little bit ornery sometimes. And I heard Elvis is in the building. So to me, that made me giggle, because I felt like, Elvis was such a big personality, right? And he was so fun, and he was so exciting to watch. But in my mind, the Celestials have made it. They are here, and they are ready to help. So when my guide said that this morning, Elvis is in the building, I just had to laugh. But basically what they said is, like, there's been galactic help on the way, and it's like they are here and they are ready and they are starting to help now. So just know, like, I've heard different things like brace yourself and be ready, and there's no fear in it, guys. Like, that's the thing that I want to tell you is, don't go into fear and don't go into panic. And just like at the beginning of COVID, like I remember, I think I did this in my private group, but I texted my kids, about a week or so, week and a half before things really got crazy in Seattle. And I'm like, you might just go to the grocery store and just get a few things just to stock up. Like, it wasn't fear, and it wasn't like, you're never going to have any more food, but it was like, you might just want to have a little bit of extra on hand just in case. I don't know why, but I just had that feeling. I kind of have that feeling again. Like, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's not like the world's going to end and we're never going to have anything else. But it wouldn't hurt to have, some, like for me, staples. Like, we grew up again out in the country, like in the middle of nowhere. It was almost 2 hours to get to a very big grocery store, right? So I would get some of the basics. Like for me, it would be like, okay, rice and beans and, whatever, dry milk. Like, if we used to live where if a snowstorm came, you were literally stuck in your house for up to a week. So just that kind of preparation. So to me, it's not a fear thing, but it's like, okay, well, if you're far from town, you can't get to town, you might want to have plenty of groceries in stock. But I'm thinking, even if you live in town, like, it wouldn't hurt to have things just in case things get crazy. Like, you don't have to go out in the middle of it. Again, no fear, but if a snowstorm's coming, like, be prepared, right? So, and I'm not saying it's going to snow, but I'm just saying, like, just be prepared for some of those kind of things. So is something else going to happen soon? I don't know what soon is. Time right now is so weird. Like, just be ready. Like, this whole year is going to be eye-opening. We'll just put it like that, right? Like that, we can at least say that this year has been eye-opening. Like, there's been some things happening. Okay, so the next thing is, somebody's like, I keep hearing about people changing jobs. My clients are asking me, like, what to do about changing jobs. You're going to know if you need to make the changes. And if you've got that feeling within you, if your like heart and your gut is calling you to make changes in your job or where you live or any of those kind of big changes, it seems like that, like your rational mind is going to go, this is the worst time to be doing that, because God only knows what's going to happen, right? But if you're being called to it, you just need to have faith and just do it. Like, everybody that I've been talking to, like my Patreon members and stuff that have been getting the regular weekly messages from me and really tuning into the energy and staying on top of it, one of the things we've been talking about is instant manifestation. That's something that's been coming through loud and clear for the entire year from my guides for everybody. Instant manifestation will happen, but it's, what are you focused on? Like, are you expecting the best thing to happen to turn out, or are you expecting the worst? Because whichever way it is, that's what's going to happen. So like some of them were like, okay, this seems really weird, but I'm really feeling like we need to move. And this was, like a month and a half ago when things were really crazy. And I'm like, you know what? If you're being guided to it, just get in your gut, pray over it, make sure it's the right step. Ask your guides, what's the next best step? And everything went so smooth. It was just so smooth. Like they sold their house in California. They came to Colorado, visited. They listed their house, came to Colorado, visited, went back, sold their house, packed up, went to Texas, closed in 3 days. Like literally like that. And that's just one example. And I know 4 of my clients that have had huge moves like that, just out of nowhere. Like, one of the other ones got their dream house. Like, it's like all of these things are still happening, even though all the craziness is happening. Why? Because they're focused on what they're supposed to be doing. They're focused on doing the things that need to be done. They're not completely oblivious of what's going on outside of them, but they're also knowing that if they stay in divine alignment, everything's going to be okay. So I would say if you're being urged to change jobs, if you feel like that's something that you're being called to, or if you're feeling like you need to move, you've got to pray over it. You've got to be clear. Make sure that you're not making any decisions out of fear. But if you feel like you're in that divine alignment, then I would say trust it. And get your fear out of the way, because your mind will talk you out of it. The next thing that I want to go over was, I don't remember exactly what the question was, but the note I wrote down is subtle energies. Okay, so we've got to be aware of subtle energy right now. Okay, now this is going back to the video I did on the Black Lives Matter. Like, I couldn't get behind that, and I didn't know why. It's not that I don't agree that Black Lives Matter, I do, but there's just something behind that movement that just didn't feel right. So the words sound right, but there's something behind it that just energetically, there's something that just I couldn't align with. And so we have to be aware of the subtle energies, okay? And this is going to go right into discernment. So we've got to start learning for ourselves how to discern what is right and what isn't, what energies feel good and what don't, why we like things and why we don't like things. Like, it's all about discerning what feels right, okay? It talks about discernment in the Bible. So if you're not aware of that, or if you don't know how to do that, practice that. Look up the word discernment. What does that mean? If you're listening to yourself and you're discerning something, what does it mean? The subtle energy is it judgment or is it discernment? Okay, so there's a subtle energy. They sound very similar. Judging something and discerning something sound similar, right? Like discerning, you say, oh, well, I'm judging what's right for me and what's not. No, it's a subtle difference. But what my guides are saying is that as more light comes in, and as we ascend into the 5D energy, we have to know the differences between the subtle energies, because even though it sounds like a similar word, and if you looked it up, it's probably a synonym in the thesaurus, it's not the same energetically. There's a totally different vibe behind judgment versus discernment, because judgment, you're taking your own thoughts, beliefs, whatever, and your own wounding, your own ideas, your own beliefs, and putting it behind something. Whereas discernment, you're trying not to judge it. You're just saying, okay, help me know, is this good or is this not? Like, it's a totally different thing. You're not making judgment, you're discerning, and there's a subtle difference there. Okay, so subtle energies are huge right now. The next thing, again, and this kind of ties into it, my guides wanted to talk about is personal sovereignty. That's something that I know I posted on this a few weeks ago, and you've got to look up what the word is on when you look up sovereign. And I know I posted this, but I feel like I need to look it up right now. It's basically just being in charge of yourself. Oh yeah, my computer's not wanting to work, so I guess I won't, but I'll post on that later. But I know I posted something about it the other day about this personal sovereignty. We have to remember that we are sovereign beings. We have authority over ourselves, okay? So we've got to, and it's really interesting to me that came up a few weeks before any of this lockdown and the COVID and all of that kind of stuff. The sovereignty, that word kept coming up for me way before that happened. And so it's interesting that our guides are saying, don't forget about your personal sovereignty. Don't forget that you're sovereign beings. Don't forget that you're light beings. Don't forget that you are a God spark. Don't forget who you are in divine truth, right? And so it's really interesting because we're being told to remember that we have personal sovereignty, which is meaning that we have authority over ourselves. But then we're being given all of these rules. And I think it's like, again, coming back to the discernment, why are they doing that? What is the purpose behind that? Like, we've got to be looking for ourselves if it feels right or not. Now, I'm not saying don't go out and break any laws. I'll tell you, my asthma is terrible. Trying to wear a mask literally makes me sick. I had to run into the store and I wore a mask. I had a headache for a couple hours after that. I had to do a nebulizer. Like, it's ridiculous. But I can't, literally, you can't go into Safeway now without a mask. So it sucks. And but I'm not going to break any laws, right? Like, I'm not going to break laws. However, you've got to understand the energy behind all of these rules and regulations that are happening. So there's something in that too that I really feel like we've got to discern for ourselves what's right and what isn't. I will be shopping here at the local store instead because it just makes me literally sick to have to do that. And again, you guys, it's ridiculous, the judgment either way. Like, you never know what's going on for somebody else, right? So I don't care which side of it you're on, quit judging people. That's something that I will say right then. Quit judging people and know that everybody has their own personal sovereignty. So let that land however it lands for you. You have authority over yourself. You are sovereign. Look that up and see what that means to be a sovereign being. Knowing that God is love and knowing that we have a God spark, see how that feels for you. Okay, the next question was how to plan for the future that we now live in. Okay, this is... so my guides are again kind of being funny and they're like, well, go with the flow. Obviously that's something I've been talking about for a long time, right? So just go with the flow. The thing is, if we go back to regular law, like just plain old basic law of attraction, we know that regardless of what's going on outside of us, we have personal sovereignty. We have the authority over ourselves. So what we focus on, what we want to create, what we believe we can create, what we believe we deserve, all of those things are still active. That doesn't change the spiritual laws any. Everything that's going on in the world doesn't change the spiritual truth. Okay? So I would say still have your vision board, still have the ideas of what you want to create, still plan for the future as if, but be flexible, right? So yeah, just have a goal, but be flexible. That's all I can say for that is you still got to plan for the future. It's not like the world's going to end tomorrow, right? So just plan for the future. Anyway, okay, so somebody else had said, I'm sorry, I'm checking these off as we go. We know how to ground, but how are we supposed to ground in this energy? Okay, we all know that, well, not all of us, but if you're in here, you've heard me talk about grounding, which is bringing in divine light, bringing it down through yourself, anchoring into the earth, and then bubbling yourself into divine light, right? That feels a little bit different right now. Being grounded now doesn't feel exactly the same way for everybody as it used to. One, because of all the energy that's going on out there, the energetic debris, really, that's all out in the cosmos right now. I mean, literally, you guys, it's so big. It's literally, this energy is just kind of taking over everything. So when you get ready to ground to what feels good. Okay, so if it doesn't feel good to ground directly into the earth right now, if that doesn't feel good for you, maybe ground into the ocean, maybe like tethered to the moon, like do whatever it feels so that you know that you're energetically in your body and you're not just floating around in the cosmos, but you're actually in your body, but ground into, okay, so what I'm hearing right now is ground to your body, and that's enough, because right now the energies are so crazy that, again, we kind of get stuck in these old, like, this is what I've been taught, this is the way we do things. And remember, I've said this again since the beginning of the year. Anybody who says this is the way it has to be done, that's probably not going to be done that way anymore, because everything has been changing. And we know this because we're moving into a new energy. We're moving into higher awakening. We're moving into more spiritual things that are happening around us. And so everything that used to be is not exact, like the way that we used to do it, because this is how we do it, that doesn't work anymore. So you've got to be in the space of listening to your guides and saying, okay, how do I do this now? What feels good to me? And so what I'm hearing is ground into your body. Make sure you're fully grounded in your body. And then the rest of it, ask your guides, do I anchor to the ground? Do I anchor to the center of the earth? Like, ask your guides what feels good, but just trust what comes up, okay? The next thing was divorce, children, and family, okay? This is all, I'm not surprised. I'll tell you, at the beginning of this, when they started the lockdown, I saw just a few minutes of like one of the talk shows, and I don't even remember which one it was. I don't even know why the TV was on, but I heard her say, you know, we've only been locked up together for 2 weeks or whatever. And this was before the lockdown hit the entire state, you know, United States. And they were already getting a divorce. They're like, we've only spent 2 weeks together and we realized that we aren't even compatible. We don't even know why we got married. It's really a telling time to see what's going on. So if you're going through that, just give yourself lots of grace. As far as children and family, again, you guys, we just have to trust that what is the best for us is going to come up. So if it's best to get a divorce, or if it's best to whatever, like you're gonna have to just trust and pray on it and make sure what feels right. Use your own discernment on what feels good. As far as the kiddos, I think the more that you can stay calm and radiate out light and peace and joy and happiness, the easier it's going to be for the kids to stay in that space, okay? Because kids are very, very empathic, especially the younger kids coming in right now. It's huge. Finances. Okay, you guys are going to laugh at this, but I'm coming back to law of attraction. The one thing that my guides have been saying, and they've been saying this for a while, but like over and over and over and over for the last 2 months, is time is money is energy. So and those are all interchangeable. So time is energy is money. Money is time is energy. Energy is money is time. Like those 3 words are all the same. So if you're worried about finances, I would say, where are you spending your time and your energy? If you're worried about money, where are you spending your time and your energy? Because if you're allowing your time to be sucked by giving it to things that don't matter, or if you're allowing your energy, so like time, like if you just get in Facebook and you just let it just suck you in and then you stay there forever, then that's sucking your energy. Okay, if your energy, if you're looking at Facebook or whatever, or you know, whatever it is, if you're letting it just drain your energy, watching TV, like if it's, I would say time and energy are the same, but emotionally there's energy as well. So I would look and see, where are you spending the most of your emotional energy? Are you uplifting yourself? Are you doing things that build you up? Are you, spending time, that we have all this free time, a lot of us, right? Are you using that to do things that fill you up? Or are you using that to look at stuff and get even more upset and more worked up and more frustrated? Okay. So, so finances are going to be directly related to how you're spending your time and your energy. And again, law of attraction, what you believe. If you believe you have enough money to get you through, you're going to have enough money to get you through. So, okay, so this is actually really good too. The next thing that came up was spiritual hygiene. And I've talked about this before, but we have to be doing spiritual hygiene, meaning checking our energy, checking our space, infusing our home with love, like doing energetic hygiene to take care of the energy around us. Okay, so as empaths right now, self-care is no longer optional, and it's not even necessary. It is critical to do that right now. So be aware of your energy. Like, do you need to take a salt bath? Do you need to go stand outside and put your feet on the ground? Do you need to check out and turn off all the electronics? Do you need to get out and take a walk in nature? You know what I mean? Like, and then energetically for yourself, can I bring in the divine light and bring out the bubble and get rid of any dust bunnies that are in here? You guys, I have free meditations on YouTube. You can do like an energy reset meditation or whatever for any of it, and then you can use the same energy for your home. Just imagine that it's doing the same thing in the middle of your house, and it clears out the energy as it goes through. So, or sage or incense or whatever it is that you like to do for your energy. The next thing that we talked about was the heart expansion and getting our heart and our head connected. And I have talked about this as well. I think it's probably on Patreon. Again, you guys, for those of you that don't know, I do have a Patreon there's one option that's a pay what you can. It's pay what you can afford. $5 is like the minimum, but it's just so that you have an energetic exchange to be able to get the messages. Part of the reason that I did Patreon when I started it, however long ago it was, is because we need a safe space to be able to do this, because Twitter and Facebook and all of these things are taking a bunch of things down. And if there's any keywords, then they're going to take it down. And I don't know what the keywords are. So I know that some of my posts have been lost. I know that for sure. I know even now when I get ready to post things, it doesn't post immediately. It shows like this, okay, it's being filtered kind of thing. And so like Patreon is a place where I know whatever I post is going to come up. You can hear it. It keeps you tuned into the energy. There's energy healing in all of the messages that I do. So I would just, if you feel like you need a little bit of extra support right now, I would definitely say check that out. The links in one of the things under here and the announcements, like how to work with me in the Facebook group. So just if you need the extra support, it's there for you. Okay. But connecting our heart and our head, and what's really interesting is, I've talked about this before, so we have to get in divine alignment, meaning that our mind and our thoughts are focused on the same things as our heart, okay? And I talked about, instead of being mindset, because we always talk about working on mindset, right? Like that's one of the things that you can't bypass that. You still have to work on mindset. You've got to get rid of the nasty little mean girl that tells you things in your head that, you know, there's never going to be enough money, or things aren't good enough, or everything's going to fall to shit, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's all these negative things. If you think that, that's going to create part of your reality. So it's the mindset has to be done, but we also have to now bring that mindset to our heart, and our heart knows the truth. So if we can trust and have faith and hold on to that, then we've got to get ourselves heart set instead of mindset. So it's being heart set, but getting your mind on board with that, so that you're not completely constantly fighting that. The more you work with limiting beliefs and the more you can trust in your heart, the easier it's going to be to get into that space of being heart set instead of mindset. But you really want to make them congruent so that your heart set and your mindset work together. And when I was talking about that, or when I was thinking about that this morning and writing it down, my guys are like, Psalm 19. So I'm like, okay, so Psalm 19. Of course, it says, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight. Okay. So I looked at Psalm 19, and what's really interesting with this is it said, so I have the study Bible, just in case somebody, I know people ask this sometimes and I never know. My Bible's falling apart, so I'll just show you the front page. It's the New King James Study Bible. It says Nelson's New King James Study Bible. And I think I've showed you guys this before, but literally, like, my Bible is like, I have it in a case, and there's notes everywhere in it, and it's falling apart, and so I use it a lot, we can just say. So when I'm looking at this one, it says that Psalm 19, it says the poem begins with the heavens, centers on the word, and culminates in the heart of the servant of God. So again, you guys, it's about the word of God is a live thing, right? The heavens, God created the heavens, and then it culminates in our hearts. So this is all about helping us. So I would read Psalm 19, okay? It's all about helping us bring this in. Now, what's interesting though is I also looked at Psalm 20, and this psalm talks about the day of battle, and it said it has an application for any troubled day in the life of the believer. So you guys, we're in troubled times right now. Like we were told by Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene 2 years ago, we were getting ready for turbulent times. We're in the turbulent times. Okay, so I would say if that resonates with you, read Psalm 20 as well, because it talks about like an ancient battlefield, which is, we're in spiritual war. Like even though all this stuff is showing up in the world, it's still, it looks like it's people. This is a spiritual war going on. And I've been talking about this again for years, you guys. There's a spiritual war going on, and it's up to us as light bearers and light bringers to shine light. And ever since I was little, that song, This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine. We're being called to do that right now. We are being called to anchor that light within us and shine love and light wherever we can. Okay. So it's really interesting too, because the Sunday school, I used to teach Sunday school too, but one of the songs that we used to sing, and I don't even remember all the words, but it was I'm in the Lord's army. And it was like, I may never shoot the artillery, God, I don't even remember all the words. But anyway, it was like, it was something about I'm in the Lord's army. And it's like all of a sudden we're like, we're in the army. We are in the army of light, and we need to bring love to the planet. So again, Psalm 19 and 20, I think would be really, really good for you guys as far as asking for your guides to come in and your angels to help you really get your heart and your head in congruency. Okay, okay, how do we find flow within in these shifting energies? Again, you guys, this is just about spiritual discipline, okay? Finding flow with all the shitstorm that's going on around us is just nothing more than spiritual discipline. So what are you doing to help yourself stay grounded? What are you doing? Hydration, okay? Hydration is huge. I've been drinking so much water. Staying in, first of all, quiet. Like for me, that's the one thing that I know is I haven't even been listening to the TV much. I've been turning everything off and just like, you just got to find some time to just be. So finding flow with all of this crazy energy and all the shifts happening is spiritual discipline, plain and simple. Get in your prayer time. Get in your time to go walk in nature. Take the salt baths. Again, you guys, that's self-care, but it's also discipline, right? Because it's something that we know we need to do to take care of ourselves. So in order to find flow with everything going on, it's constant communication with your guides and angels, being tapped into the divine, having faith and trust, practicing that however you, whoops, sorry, call was coming in, working with the law of attraction, working with prayer, working with all of those kind of things, whatever you can do to keep yourself in divine flow. Like, and if things that didn't work or that used to work before aren't working now, then I would say figure out a way to upgrade that, right? So like some of the spiritual or some of the self-care things don't work. It's like not enough anymore. Maybe you used to be able to just take a salt bath and that was fine and you felt better, but now maybe it's you've got to go stand outside and put your feet on the ground for 10 minutes and then you go take a salt bath and then you drink a ton of water and then maybe you feel better, right? Because again, there's so much energy coming in, and as empaths we are constantly processing that. And what the way that my guides are saying it is, as empaths we're actually transmuting the energy. So whether we know it or not, on a spiritual level, we've said, okay, we can help transmute some of this energy. So it may feel overwhelming to you. If it's feeling overwhelming, then you've got to practice spiritual discipline, and you've got to do more self-care. I know a lot of people have been needing a lot of extra sleep. I did a message on ascension symptoms. There's a couple different ones that I've done, but I know I just did one last week on Patreon, and so I'm not going to go over that again, but there's all kinds of ascension symptoms. One of the best things that you can do is allow your body to reset, like allow yourself to sleep, okay? Allow yourself to take that 15-minute power nap in the afternoon. Allow yourself to go sit out in the lawn chair and soak up the sun for 10 minutes and just close your eyes and be still. Like whatever it takes to help you get through is really, 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 really important. Somebody asked if the news and press releases and all those kind of things, stuff going on with Trump and whatever, that's causing a lot of energy, you guys. Thing that I would say there is, again, how much emotional energy are you putting to it? How much time are you spending there? Now, some people are called to do that. Some people, that's their calling, is to do the work in that arena, but that is not my arena. So if you're spending time there, is it because you're called to do that? Or are you just letting it be a distraction? So I would really focus into, is your time best spent looking through all of the news stations and comparing all the things and digging into the facts and finding all that stuff? Is that where you're called to? Or are you really kind of going down a rabbit hole and you're spending way too much time and energy there? I do research things here and there just to see, but I don't spend all of my time and I don't focus there. And I know when enough is enough. Like I might look for 10 minutes on the news just to see what's going on, because we do need to know what's going on in the world, but I'm not like going into it. And then also I would look and see, is that triggering you? Is it causing fear? Is it causing anxiety? And if so, then why? Like, what is the anxiety that's coming up? What is the fear that's coming up? And how can you work through and process those emotions? Because if it's triggering you, then there's something in it that you need to work with and heal in some way. Okay. Okay. Time. Yeah. So time is really, really weird right now. Um, Time is going slow and fast all at the same time, and it doesn't make any sense, and I don't know how to explain it other than that when I ask my guides about it, they're like, time is irrelevant, and I know that it is to spirit, but it's not here, but it's really been wonky. And so it's so bizarre to me. Like, I I know there's been times where I feel like it was 15 minutes and like 2 hours have passed. And then I know there's other things that I've been doing and it's like, oh my God, this is taking forever and it's been 15 minutes. So that's just something that we're dealing with right now. If you're experiencing that, nothing's wrong. You're not crazy. That's actually happening. It's a thing right now. I don't know why the guides are saying, don't worry about it. It is what it is. Okay, great. But like, you know, they're like, time doesn't really matter. And I get that on their side, but it does matter here, but it's just weird. So just trust that if you're in the flow, it's going to be okay. And don't worry about time so much. I might say be a little bit more flexible with yourself on like deadlines and things like that. Like if you know you have a deadline, I would say if you know that it's on Tuesday, you might tell yourself it's due on Monday just because time's been really weird. So hopefully that you can get things done, you know, in a timely manner so that you still hit deadlines or whatever, if that's something that you have. But I know like some of the things I'm like, oh, it'll take me a couple hours and it was all day. So just be flexible within your schedule as much as you can. The last question that I had was on deception energy. And this kind of ties back into everything that I've talked about here, as far as going over stuff from the call, you guys. It's the subtle energies. It's using discernment, understanding personal sovereignty, being in line with law of attraction and knowing that what you think and what you feel is what you create. So if you feel like there's deception energy, use discernment. And then ask, is it right for me to even go into this, or do I just need to know that something feels wonky and I don't need to go there, right? So it could be both. It could be, yes, there's deception energy. I think there is, again, maybe on all sides, who knows, right? But I think the big thing is if you're feeling that, then I would say, if I'm feeling deception energy, then I would ask your guides and angels to help you, and I would pray over it and say, is this something that I need to be really diving into to find out, or is it just, hey, this is a heads up, this feels wonky, don't go there? Could be one or the other. I think it's not going to matter. I feel like if you're called to it, of course do it, but I feel like the truth is going to come out one way or another, and I've been saying that for all year already. So because they told us in January that it was the 2020 vision. And again, you guys, if you sign up for Patreon and you didn't hear the January message, go back and listen to the January, because it gave us a really good overview of what was going to happen this year. And like, I didn't even realize until like June, I'm like, oh my goodness, everything they told us in January totally makes sense now. So I hope this helps you guys. I know this is really long. I don't usually like to be on really long, but there's just a lot going on. So instead of cards this week, I wanted to bring you guys this message. Sending you guys lots of love. I hope that you're doing well. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm going to wrap it up and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good weekend. Bye.